We don't have the space for that because all our capacity and energy and awareness is going into these feelings of frustration. How is your sense of direction going to feel clear and certain if you feel like there's a piece of the puzzle missing? The calves are the gatekeepers of forward motion, where desires meet devotion. Welcome to Monday Movement. We're going to go through knees, calves, feet, ankles, that whole lower leg complex today. We're going to look at it from a psychosomatic perspective. That's what Monday Movements is all about. We're looking at psychosomatics and somatic practices. So we're going to break down the fundamental metaphysical components to this area of the body, starting with knees, moving to feet, and then tying the feet and knees together with the region of the calves. So 3 key links that we're going to form together to see how knees, feet, and calves all meet. Number 1, starting with knees, we have stored frustration. Then we have feet, our key link number 2, which is around neglected desires, as much as it is to do with direction in life, but neglected desires. And then we have the calves, which really that key point ties the other 2 together. The key link for our calves is untapped willpower. So let's break all those 3 key links down, starting with the knees and the stored frustration that we have in our knees. I would see this time and time again in Reiki sessions. When it comes to the knees, this is where we store our frustrations or our grudges, anything around frustration and anger. But the conflict at the knees, where we have anger, frustration, it's different to the breakdown I went to in the last few weeks with the elbows. You know, we're talking about the elbows and forearms and how this is where we store conflict with others. When we're talking about the knees and the conflict stored in the knees, this specifically speaks to the emotions of frustration or a similar emotion such as anger, resentment, anything that is like holding a grudge. And when we're looking at those types of emotions around the knees, it's usually related to the feeling of our desires being unmet. Often it will be projected onto the other person. So like, I feel like that person is not meeting my desires and my needs. And so I'm starting to harbor frustration and resentment instead of just talking to them about it. And often the reason we don't talk to them about it is because we feel like there is a bit of the piece, like the puzzle piece missing. And this is where tapping into, I guess, the awareness that there is a part of myself that feels like I am harboring an unmet need and desire. I'm not fulfilling that, and I feel resentment towards myself or some kind of frustration towards myself, because really deep down I know that that unmet need comes from within me. But it's often so unconscious that we can't quite pinpoint it ourselves and bring it to consciousness. And so it's easier when we're unconscious about the internal conflict towards ourselves to then see that exact same frequency mirrored in a relationship with someone else close to us, where that unmet desire is also occurring within that relationship. Or perhaps we're projecting that unmet desire onto someone, that responsibility onto someone else to fulfill that desire, and we're getting frustrated because they're not giving anything back. But really it's about tapping into, and this is where the feet comes in, the unmet or the neglected desires that we have for ourselves deep down internally. Again, it's very unconscious. Often it's something that we don't quite realize yet until, for example, you're watching this video and you go, oh, that's what it is. Or until we do the inner work and search deep into our soul and realize, oh, there's that desire, that unmet, desire that I want to feel safety in my life. And it might not necessarily be, foundational things like needing to eat, needing to sleep, needing a safe space to live. It tends to be more around desires and things that fulfill our soul, which is why it's a deeper level. And so when it comes to the feet, we often think of unclear direction. This is another aspect of psychosomatics. So things that can represent in the feet, and psychologically or emotionally or energetically, it's about not having a clear direction. But going deeper than that, because that's superficial signs of why things can show up in the feet, we go deeper than that and look at, okay, well, why is the direction not clear? We all know the statement of cold feet or stumbling through life. And when we think of those sayings, they're the perfect example of not having having a clear direction with our feet. But when the undertones are deeper than that and we're looking into desires, into the dreams and desires that have been neglected or unconsciously lurking in the bottom, we haven't quite seen them yet, but we know something's missing, then that feeling of frustration in the knees that we talked about will start to surface. Our mind will start to feel confused and conflicted, and this is where sense of direction comes in with the feet. We don't have the full picture. I've said this time and time again. Not having that full picture, that full, all the pieces of the puzzle coming together. How is your sense of direction going to feel clear and certain if you feel like there's a piece of the puzzle missing? So, unmet desires is what ultimately, when it comes to feet and knees and everything in between, is what leads to that unclear direction. And, it's what holds us back from taking that next step forward, which is where our calves come in. So just like the wrists are our gateway of permission between our desires and dreams in the elbow and the forearm, and then bringing them into fruition at the hands, our wrists are what give that permission, that flow of energy to come forth into reality. The calves, when we're talking about lower limbs, the calves are the gateway of our stored frustrations where they can be released. So we can get those frustrations out of the way, those grudges. Grudges, we hold on to them, and ultimately we're the ones who suffer. We're the ones who are holding back. We're the ones who are focused on something that doesn't even matter anymore. It's no longer relevant. And it's what's holding us back. All our attention goes onto that. Then we can't bring and make space for new things to come through, such as new desires, those unmet desires. We don't have the space for that because all our capacity and energy and awareness is going into these feelings of frustration. And so the calves really are this gateway of untapped willpower, this resistance to releasing the frustration from the knees, which we often meet that resistance in the calves, in that gateway, will typically stem from a victim mentality, correlating with the belief that the world owes you something, or the world is out to punish you, or conversely, there can be this self-punishment out of, guilt or shame that this unmet or unfilled desire is there. But really, it's this resistance that we meet in the calves, where there's either the victimhood mentality or this self-punishment mentality or belief system. That resistance is actually what's holding us back from tapping into the full reality of what we desire and what we want to fulfill in life, of accessing the willpower, the passion, the dreams and desires, the action taking behind that, the drive to make all that happen. This is what that block is, that resistance. If we carry these grudges with us that we harbor towards other people, or this self-punishment or this victimhood mentality within the knees and the calves and the feet, we will never come to fully be happy in our life and feel like we are living up to our fullest potential and fulfilling our deepest desires. So this is where the calves can really be the gateway to release, to freedom, in that sense of fulfilling and having a happy life. To give the knees that permission to release the grudges, come to see that full picture of the desires that are unmet, and then take action in the right direction towards those desires, which is where the feet come in again. It's the feet are also grounding. It's where we come to fully know ourselves, so things come full picture. If we feel grounded and stable within ourselves because we know ourselves, we know ultimately what our truest desires are, and then we have that willpower coming through of the solar plexus, because this is all around the root chakra, the fundamental desires and knowing thyself, and also plays into the solar plexus, taking that willpower and that power in knowing yourself and making it all happen. And when the path isn't clear, it's hard to do that. So it's like making way, releasing grudges, and making space to go inwards, discover what it is that you really want. Shift the awareness from all this energy that's been taken up with frustration, grudges, both externally and internally, and make space for searching for your truest desires within, coming to know yourself, and then tapping into that willpower. It becomes a source of infinite life energy, prana, the drive in life. Once things are finally clear, the purpose is clear, the desire is clear, the path is clear. It all flows naturally from there. So we're going to go through a somatic practice to fully instill all this knowledge, everything we've talked about in the episode today, in next week's episode. But for now, I've got 3 questions for you to ponder over until then. That's going to help you to fully integrate everything you've taken in from this episode. Question number 1 is, who or what am I fighting in my mind's eye as I try to move forward? Who or what is that resistance that I'm fighting in my mind, consciously, becoming aware of it? Consciousness, tapping into it consciously, is the beginning of becoming aware of the unconscious, the grudge and the frustration, bringing it to the surface. Then we have question number 2. Where am I resisting or perhaps redirecting my energy onto something else as a means to avoid taking that next step towards my desires? So where am I resisting taking the right step or the next step towards my desires by focusing my energy elsewhere and creating a really unclear path? Where am I resisting taking that next step? Where is the resistance to finding that missing piece of the puzzle coming from? And then number 3, your last question, does all of this newfound information from the previous 2 questions clarify the next step that I want to take? And if so, take it. Find that willpower, tap into it, create the space to be able to know yourself on a deeper level, redirect your energy into what it is that you truly desire, and let go of those grudges. I'll see you in the next episode where we're going to go over a somatic practice to fully process through and integrate the information from today's episode. I'll see you then.